Welcome back to the Deep Digger Sports Pod. I'm your host, Drew, my other host right here next to me.
What's up? It's Dee. Good to see you again. This week, we are digging into a whole bunch of stuff. So the 49ers got a win on what looked like a home game in Arizona. They are taking on the Baltimore Ravens. I believe it's Christmas Day. So that's going to be an exciting matchup. And then we got a whole smorgasbord as far as the Eagles are falling apart. The Cowboys show at the how about them boys, and then just a whole bunch of QB talk. But before we dig into that, be sure to hit that like button, be sure to subscribe to the pod, and then be sure to drop some comments below. Just let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, and rather than kind of dig into this Cardinals game that was just a fucking ass kicking for the 49ers, I mean, Debo scored, CMC scored, Ayuk did his thing, Kittle went off, and Brock Purdy looked amazing. I think we could just focus on Brock Purdy's comments after the game, saying that he believes Christian McCaffrey should be the MVP. What are we feeling on that? I know we talked about this year. There's kind of a lack of MVP candidates of quarterbacks who really stood out and were consistent all year. Dak now has fallen off the narrative of being MVP. We're starting to prop up guys like Baker Mayfield, and there's even arguments for Joe Flacco being in the MVP conversation. So what are your thoughts on the NFL kind of refusing to give this to a non-quarterback?
Yeah, and I think even George Kittle went on somewhere to talk about it, and he was saying like, "Hey, I love Brock. I think what Brock doing is MVP caliber, but at the same time, you got to give more love to guys like Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is just an all-around dog. He's one of the best receiving running backs. He's obviously the leading rusher in the league, and then he gave a lot of praise to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is about to hit 2,000 yards." On the season. He's just a dynamic player, and you can't tell me that he's not the best player on the Miami Dolphins team. But in reality, this is Brock Purdy's to lose. Like after those comments where he said, "Hey, I think it should go to Christian McCaffrey. Christian is just, the diamond that we need as far as this offense moving forward." Christian came out and said, like, "What the fuck is Brock Purdy talking about? It's Brock's. Like, Brock is the MVP." And so I think that's what it's going to be. I think he has to have a good showing against this Baltimore Ravens team. But, I mean, guys like Jalen Hurts completely out of it. Dak Prescott completely out of it. I think that it's going to go to Brock Purdy. I think that we're going to take a step back in a couple of years from now and be like, damn, what a fucking amazing story that Brock Purdy, this, Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the draft, not only was he this good, but he also won the NFL MVP. And who's to say that he's not the NFL MVP who takes his team to the Super Bowl and wins it all? Like, it's shaping up to be an awesome story, and I'm totally here for the ride. I get that the non-quarterbacks need a little bit more love in the MVP race, but at the same time, like, let's take this story as what it is, and it's pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah, I don't want to take anything away from Brock. I think he's definitely the MVP of the league this year. And whether that's his play being amazing or the fact that like half the starting quarterbacks are hurt, he's definitely earned it. He's playing the best. He's playing the most consistent out of everyone in the league. I mean, Mahomes isn't in the conversation. You look at all the top names. Lamar kind of fell off for a while. I mean, Hurts has not looked great. They try to, anoint Dak as the guy, but we just know that in primetime, he's not the guy. If he would have had a statement game against the Bills, maybe it would have been him. But I definitely think CMC should be up there in the top 3, Tyreek Hill. And I kind of want to throw a dark horse in that race. Do you know McCaffrey is tied for the most touchdowns in the league for non-quarterback at 20? Do you know who he's tied with?
Who?
Raheem Mostert for the Dolphins.
Okay.
And so if you're leading the league in touchdowns, I think you should be in that conversation along with McCaffrey. Like, Raheem is fucking balling too. Like, credit where credit's due.
Yeah, but so for those guys, like, they have switched up the format now. They're doing instead it was just you get one vote, and that's like you get the one MVP vote. That's it. Now they've switched it to the almost like the Heisman, where it's you rate 1, 2, 3. Hearing a lot of talk that Christian McCaffrey could split the vote between Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey, and that could cause Brock Purdy to end up losing to a guy like, let's say, Dak Prescott has a bounce back game against a lesser team, things like that. So those are just things to watch out for, because you do have two good players on this team. You could end up splitting the vote amongst voters and neither of them get it.
And let's be real. We still do have these media people who will not admit that Brock Purdy's a good quarterback because they're looking at the draft status. Like Nick Wright is continuously off on Brock Purdy's, trying to say he's a check down guy. Cam Newton is like he's a game manager.
And I get where Cam was coming. Let's kind of talk into that. Like, I get where Cam was coming from. He said basically like, hey, he came out with another video, and basically the premise was guys aren't looking for Brock Purdy in the draft. They're looking for Josh Allen. They're looking for Lamar Jackson. They're looking for Pat Mahomes. They're not looking for Brock Purdy. And that makes sense. Like, even the 49ers weren't looking for Brock Purdy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's be real. They weren't. They waited till the last pick in the draft. If they really wanted him, they would have got him in the 5th, the 6th. But no, they got him. They waited. And they felt like, hey, he's still going to be there. And if we don't get him, that's fine. And that's fine. Like, it's okay. Not everyone can be Cam Newton in their prime. But you got to admit, Brock Purdy's really fucking good. And he's surpassed all the expectations. And so you got to kind of put everything, like the draft status, everything to the back of your mind and look at the play. And what he's doing right now is awesome. And he even put I think he put Peyton Manning in that same category. And so I don't think he's talking about two different things. There's franchise quarterbacks, and then there's like game changing, like, hey, we want to do it. And I think when you look at what he's going for and what he put the whole team on his back, but he was very inconsistent. He was not like a true, I'm going to just slice and dice you. And we've seen guys turn into that, and he just didn't.
Yeah, like Lamar, I think, has turned into a guy who can throw the ball and stand in the pocket.
Oh, he's awesome.
And like, I think it's just a thing of the narrative and the perception that Brock isn't a game changer. Like, he's a game manager. How many plays have we seen this season where he rolls out of the pocket and extends the plays and throws a crazy touchdown pass? And we've seen that his whole career already. Like, last year, he was doing crazy stuff on the sideline, waiting the last possible second, flipping his hips and throwing something Ayuk in the end zone. Like, there was that play that didn't count last year where he kind of throws a crazy ball, and everyone was like, oh my God, he would have broke the internet if he completed this pass.
Yeah.
But I think it's just that he's a small guy. He was drafted last, and people don't want to admit, like, he is a game changer. He's a game manager who has the ability to be a game changer, which is exactly what Kyle Shanahan wants. He doesn't want someone who's just boom or bust.
Yeah.
He wants someone to run that offense perfectly, and then when Kyle can't think of like, oh, when this breaks down, we want to do this, you need to be able to innovate on your feet and make those plays. And that's what Brock Purdy can do.
Yeah, and he's a guy who, like, very humble, but also, like, once he gets on that field, his play is very cocky. Like, he's like, I can make all these throws. I can outrun this defensive end and then full speed, make a stop and make the throw. And those are things that you want if you are Kyle Shanahan. You want a guy who can take the playbook and then enhance it. And I think Kyle, CMC, Deebo Samuel has even come out and said, like, this guy makes us so much better. Charvarius Ward came out and did an interview with Eric Armstead and said, hey, in the past, when we played you guys in the Super Bowl, we were trying to get the ball in Jimmy's hands. Defenses aren't saying that against Brock Purdy. They're like, holy shit, what do we do? How can we handle this guy? And so that's the difference.
Yeah, and to say, oh, he's a game manager, he's just checking it down. It's all the yak.
Any quarterback would look better in this, or any quarterback.
We saw Jimmy G run this offense for years, and it never looked this good. And he never ran it to the extent that Brock Purdy's running it. And yeah, like you said, people didn't fear Jimmy Garoppolo in this offense. People are trying to figure out how the fuck can we stop Brock Purdy, and they just can't do it. I think it's going to be a great story if he wins MVP. And I don't know why the NFL isn't kind of embracing it more when they're kind of like trying to shy away from Brock. I feel like they're trying to find different narratives to give it to a more mainstream name, or maybe a team that does have that star quarterback who's like the sole guy and not one of the guys.
Yeah, they would have loved if Dak Prescott had won that game against the Bills. They would have loved that, but it didn't happen. You know what I mean? It is what it is. And so, yeah, I think it is Brock Purdy's to lose. I think if he balls out against this Ravens team that is a tough out, I think it's his.
And we don't want to hear the argument that Brock Purdy is just a yak user. He just
Yak
uses
merchant.
yak. He actually has a lower percentage than the last like 3 MVP winners of yak. So, I mean, people have done deep dives into the numbers. We're not going to get into the numbers. Go fucking YouTube it, Google it. He doesn't have that much more yak or short throws than Patrick Mahomes last year.
He's leading pretty much every category in passing.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're getting to the point where you're like the ringer nerds are over there just digging into like, oh, well, this was actually, and it's like, shut up.
Yeah, when we have to like
some fucking grass.
pull up, oh, well, throws between 4 and 7 yards is actually like, just look at the eye test. He's leading the league in touchdowns. He looks amazing. The team's gonna get the 1 seed. End of story. He should be MVP. I think that's it. But let us know in the comments, who do you think even could compete for the MVP right now if it's not Brock Purdy or CMC or maybe Tyreek Hill. But going to another guy who was in that MVP race, we have Lamar Jackson in the Ravens next week for the 49ers. I think this is going to be one of our toughest games of the year. But the thing is, we're healthy right now. We're getting healthy. The offense is rolling. I know our defense has a little banged up. But for the most part, they should be good to go.
Yeah, I mean, this is a matchup that is a little scary. Lamar Jackson against the NFC has like an amazing record. And I think they actually just lost Keon Mitchell as well. I think he just tore his ACL. So, I mean, just what happens with the Ravens running back room? Every single year, they just get demolished. It sucks to see. But Lamar Jackson has actually been really awesome. I think, like you said, he is more of turning into like a pocket, not a pocket passer, but all of that energy that he's taken in scrambles. I think he's now moved it to, hey, I'm going to move and elude in this pocket and make sure that I keep my eyes downfield because he has weapons. OBJ actually looks good this season. Zay Flowers is a dog. And then you get into, they lost Mark Andrews, and that was like a really big piece. And so it's like, who's going to step up and be that next target? And so I think it's going to be a tough game, but I think that this 49ers team can really, on both sides of the ball, get after it.
Yeah, this Ravens team scares me. I mean, the Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith combination on defense is nasty. OBJ's actually contributing now, looking pretty good. Zay Flowers was obviously one of the best receivers in the draft. And Lamar is just doing his thing. And you never know when Lamar is going to take off and run. And that's kind of what hurt us in the past for the 49ers defense. But I think they've been a lot better defending running quarterbacks this year. I haven't really seen a lot of quarterbacks go crazy for them in the rushing stat.
That's true. Like Kyler Murray didn't really do that well.
Yeah.
I know Jalen Hurts was a little banged up, but he didn't have that much yards. And then they felt him. So it's one of those things. And I think Lamar I've seen someone give a breakdown where they were like talking about Lamar's rushing stats and that he's running a little bit more, not timid or scared, but more conscious of injuries. And in the year where a lot of starting quarterbacks are getting hurt, Lamar has stayed really healthy. And so they've compared his running styles where last year or the years prior to this, he was running just straight downhill and was a little bit more explosive. Whereas this year, he is running a little bit more upright, and he's actually seeing a lot of the field a little bit better, and he's getting down when he needs to rather than trying to truck people. And it looks, if you're a Ravens fan, you want that rather than running downhill. It is, hurting his yardage, but he's staying much more healthy.
Yeah. And I think the matchups are going to be pretty interesting. Like Charvarius Ward is looking really good. Ambry Thomas is looking good. So our secondary has been getting picks lately. I mean, Jair Brown, like I said, it sucks that Ufunga went down, but I almost feel like Jair Brown fits what we needed a little bit better than Ufunga, where we don't need another person in the box necessarily. We do need someone who's going to get interceptions. And Jair's just been a ball hawk. I mean, he has 2 picks already in his short time starting, and Charvarius Ward, 2 picks the last game. Ambry Thomas has been really locked down on his side. I think Demo Lenore is a little bit banged up, but as long as he's healthy and in the slot, like this secondary is really overachieving and looking good. So,
and Tiamonu Lenore is like a he's a dog.
Yeah.
Dude, like he's one of those guys that I wasn't really expecting him to have that type of attitude, but he's got it in spades, dude. He was the one who he got ejected when he shouldn't have against DK Metcalf. He popped what's his face DeAndre Swift on that like highlight hit. He's got some dog to him, and if he is healthy on Sunday, that's going to be a big addition because this 49ers defense has a ton of attitude, a ton of character. They want to get after you. They want to pop you. And if they impose their will against the Baltimore Ravens, I think that sets the tone. And I think that running up they're going to be favorites throughout this playoffs. If they beat this Ravens team, they will for sure be favorites in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and they're going to try to get Zay Flowers on the edge. They're going to try to use their speed. So having Diamador Lenore over Isaiah Oliver is a huge upgrade for us in that nickel spot. And Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner are going to be crucial to kind of keep everything contained and controlled in that box. So I'm really looking forward to this matchup. I mean, I haven't seen the lines or anything. I'm sure 49ers are favored, but make sure you guys follow, subscribe, because every Saturday we are doing the Diamond Pick of the Week, the best 49ers bets every Saturday morning. So
this is a big game, so we're thinking about doing a couple units on it. So it's going to be a pretty big bet.
Make sure you don't miss that. But let us know in the comments what you think about this 49ers game and Ravens. How confident are we feeling? How much do you think Lamar Jackson could run for against this defense? I kind of want to pivot to some more NFC teams because the Eagles are struggling. They were kind of the talk of the league a couple weeks ago. I mean, for better reasons than they are now. They were the 1 seed. They've fallen all the way to the 5. They lost 2 in a row now, right?
3 in a row.
3 in a row. Man, I mean, everyone talking shit about the 49ers earlier in the season, losing 3 in a row. Now look at the Eagles and how quickly things can change. Are the Eagles kind of a bad team right now, or are they going to pull it together, you think?
They are floundering. I don't know if you've seen that clip of it was Christian McCaffrey on the Manning cast. Did you see this clip?
No.
All right. So they line up. The tight end is off center or is off the ball. And Christian McCaffrey is like, oh, okay, this is going to be, I think he said it's going to be like a run with Jalen Hurts. The tight end is going to pull. And that's exactly what happens. And people were like, this is how fucking predictable this Eagles offense is. Christian McCaffrey knew exactly what they were going to do. That's how locked in the 49ers were to this Eagles team as well. They knew exactly what they were going to be running. Christian McCaffrey, who doesn't even play fucking defense, plays offense, knew exactly what the play was going to be. And so they're predictable on offense. Jalen Hurts is not looking good at quarterback. He's looking good on the run. He had like 80 yards, but he only had like 140. He had 2 picks. He looked bad right now. On the defensive side, they are floundering. They had to have Matt Patricia step up and essentially take the defensive coordinator spot. He is now calling the plays on the defensive side, and he couldn't stop a nosebleed during that last drive. Drew Lock looked – let's give Drew Lock some credit. Drew Lock proved himself. He is going to step up, and I think that Geno was a healthy scratch. I think they ended up – hey, you know what? Geno
hasn't looked the same this year.
We are going to have Drew Lock step up, and Drew Lock after the game was saying like, hey, I want to thank Geno. When I had the opportunity, he came up to me. He was hyping me up. He was telling me I'm the best player on this field. You're going to lead us to this game-winning drive. I know you can do it. So give Geno Smith, he's a class act, dude. He is one of those guys that you want in the locker room no matter what. And so, but they literally made this Eagles defense look pedestrian. And I know this has been a few weeks in a row where they've looked bad. What do you do on both sides of the ball? You're just looking subpar.
I mean, at this point, do you just like rest Jalen Hurts for a week to try to get him healthy? Because he's obviously not right. And he's been banged up all week. Why not just rest him? You're already out on the 1 seed. I know you're trying to win the division, but at what cost is it going to do to your team? Because you're in these dogfights every week and your schedule lets up these next 3 weeks. You don't think Mariota can get you to one win next week against, I believe, the Cardinals?
But it's like if you're them, like, okay, is that 1 week really going to matter? Like, is Jalen going to be fixed in 1 week? Or is this a thing where he's going to need the offseason? Like, hey, he's banged up. Maybe he needs a Low-key, I think he needs like a surgery or something because it has been all year. He's looked dog shit. Like, he's looked bad. He's limped in and off the field the entire year. He hasn't been on the injury report only a handful of times. I know they said he was sick this week, but there's
been like a shoulder, there's been like an ankle.
Consistently doesn't look right. There's something lingering there with him. And so, yeah, I mean, give him the week, but at the same time, like, because is it going to matter?
They're so loaded on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. Like, they should be performing way better than this. And all season, they haven't really separated from teams. They've really been in close fights every week, and now it's kind of starting to come back around to them.
Yeah, man. I mean, I said this before, but they fucked up keeping Sirianni and letting Shane Steichen go. They should have, hey, you know what, Nick? We have a guy here. I know you're winning. This is no indictment on you, but we really think that Shane Steichen is a shooting star. And look what Shane Steichen's doing with a backup quarterback in Gardner Minshew. They're going to make the playoffs. Like, have no doubt about it. I think that they're going to make the playoffs, dude.
And Gardner looks good.
Yeah, I mean, the offense looks good. Like, the team looks motivated. They look ready to go. They let go of the guy that the Eagles then picked up. It's like they're not missing a beat here. But Sirianni and this team, like, what? Sirianni is not the offensive play caller. He cannot help this team. Like,
that's the price you pay for a head coach who's not your offensive coordinator or defense coordinator.
Well, he was there. He is an offensive guy. He was their offensive play caller when he first got in, and he got it taken away from him. He's not good. And so now you figured it out, and it's like, okay, well, what does this guy really do? We fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, their offense, I mean, I said it last week. It kind of summed up with, we're going to short run, and then we're going to throw a bomb to A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith and hope they catch it. And that's kind of been their offense because Jalen Hurts hasn't been too much of a rushing threat like he was last year.
He is. This week he did do. He just couldn't. He's not I don't want to say he's not a quarterback, but he wasn't a quarterback yesterday. He wasn't. 140 yards. He had 80 yards on the ground by himself. He was just rushing the ball. And so you got to get someone else in there. You got to get someone. You got to go out and look for an offensive coordinator. I don't know if you go for
why don't they
in college? Like,
why don't they put their they have a former OC on the staff. Did you know that they have Matt Patricia?
He's going to call both sides of the ball.
Yeah, Matt Patricia could be their OC because
OCDC.
I mean, that just tells you how desperate they are right now. It's week 15.
And they're making this switch.
They're making a switch in their defense coordinator position. They have 10 wins? 10 wins, 11 wins?
I don't know.
They have at least 10 wins.
Quiz me right now.
And they are making a switch at coordinator, and that's how bad this defense is. They made a trade at the deadline for Kevin Byard. They now have turned to Matt Patricia, who has been terrible in his last couple stops. And nothing – I mean, they looked a little bit better yesterday, but – they still lost the game and then at the end of the day. So this is a desperate Eagles team. I don't know how they're going to pull it together, honestly, but they have the talent.
And even then, like, you're only going to get the concern for the Eagles moving forward is that Jalen Hurts is only going to get more expensive. His contract, the years are only going to go up from here. And so you're going to be more and more limited on resources. How are you going to build this team out? What are you really going to do? You can't.
Yeah, get ready to lose more pieces on defense.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to have to continue to build through the draft, and hopefully some of these guys hit. But, like, Nakobe Dean hasn't shown up. Like, all this whole linebacking core is not good.
That D-line should be dominating, like Browns level dominating.
And teams are literally targeting James Bradbury. You need another corner. Like,
you need safeties.
He's getting picked on so hard. That JSN touchdown in the last second off Bradbury. Like, what do you got to say? But, like, yeah, I mean, they're just floundering right now. I think they're in a bad spot. I don't see them getting far in this playoffs. I think they beat whoever in the first round, but realistically, they're not going to be able to beat the Cowboys or the 49ers.
And they fucked up last year by kind of playing we're not going to sign back Darius Slay because his contract's too big, but then they lose out on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who was a pretty good piece for them, and they have to bring back Slay, but they lost out on him. So the secondary did just get kind of pieced together at the last second in the offseason, and Bradbury is not great.
No, not at all.
Another team in their division who I think they're overrated. I'm just going to start with that. The Cowboys, they got dominated by the Bills. This was their chance to make a statement game. They've played one team with a winning record. They've beaten one team with a winning record this year, which was the Eagles, and we see now how the Eagles are looking. And this was their chance to, show the world we are real and we're going to beat a good team who's rolling right now. And they got completely destroyed, completely taken apart. And Josh Allen didn't even throw for a lot of yards. We had less than 100.
Yeah.
And James Cook
went off.
They're calling him McCaffrey.
That's the thing. Like, this Cowboys team is both, like, they did show physicality. They did show that they could impose their will. But at the same time, they just can't stop the run, which is so fucking weird. Like, your cornerbacks get after it. Your safeties get after it. Your D-line looks good. But once you get against a team that has a good run game, and the Bills, like, no one ever accused the Bills of having a good running back ever. This is James Cook has to put like his game jersey on the wall for this one. That's probably going to be the best game ever. There's no reason for James Cook to go off on you like this. And we've seen it again against the 49ers. Like, when they just get matched against a physical team, they just don't know what to do.
I told you the Cowboys are soft. I mean, they're not physical.
They weren't soft against that's the thing.
The Eagles were banged up and tired.
But it's like, why can't you apply some of these lessons to this game? And I don't know. And I get, like, where Micah Parsons is coming from, where Micah Parsons was bitching about, like, everyone is just waiting for us to lose a game. But at the same time, it's like, it's not just that.
It's the way you're losing.
You didn't even compete. You did not compete. All of these games are not must wins, but they are must competes when you're at this level.
Like, listen, Micah. I mean, your podcast is terrible, but you got blown out in playoffs, like, consistently now. You're getting, well, not blown out, but you're getting worked in playoffs by the 49ers. And now you got blown out by the Niners. You got blown out by the Bills. And those were basically the two real teams you faced who have a chance at doing something in the playoffs. So now we're not saying, oh, you lost, now let's pick on you. It's kind of, well, when you get in playoffs, do you even have a chance? Because we haven't seen it this year that you're going to compete against the best of the best. And maybe the Cowboys are in that middle zone where it's like they're going to be better than these 8-win teams and below, but then they can't beat the 10 wins and above.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, but again, it's weird because they beat the Eagles. Maybe they're just too familiar with the Eagles. Maybe, I mean, because that's the thing. Like, when you have someone that's in your division that you see twice a year, maybe 3 times a year if you see them in the playoffs, like, you're not afraid of that team. But, like, you get these unfamiliars and the 49ers and the Bills, and it's like, whoa, we don't know what they do, and they just beat the dog shit out of you. Who knows?
Why don't they put Micah Parsons at quarterback since he says he can play quarterback for the Niners?
Have you seen his tape of him in I think in high school at running back?
Mm-mm.
He's a fucking beast, dude. I wouldn't be surprised if they put him in at
also him in primetime games. Where is he gone?
Yeah, he disappears.
Yeah.
I mean, the one that he had is that Seahawks where he was unblocked and he ended the game. I mean, dumb move on the Seahawks part. But, I mean, again, that one was a nail-biter. It was the Seahawks. We see the Seahawks can get up for big games. Cowboys can't.
Yeah. Well, let us know in the comments how you feel about the Eagles and Cowboys. Do they even have a shot against this 49ers team? Are they going to pull it together like the Eagles? I don't know. I kind of want to talk about some quarterbacks. So I'm going to give you kind of a list of quarterbacks that we talked about before the season, and we kind of bash on these guys during the season. So, I mean, if you guys watch this, you're going to be familiar with some of these takes. But these were quarterbacks that we were saying were going to be terrible. We were questioning why these teams were committing to them this season, and they kind of proved us right. So I'm going to name a couple guys. You give me just a quick comment about it.
Okay.
All right. First quarterback we said was going to be bad. Sam Howell.
Told you so. I mean, like, realistically, why? Like, I get he showed flashes. I get that you had to try it out. Hey, you know what? But not this late in the season. Not this long. I mean, realistically, yeah, he was leading the league in like yards. He was also leading the league in attempts by a lot. Before their bye week, it was 70.
He threw 1,000,000 times a game.
Yeah. Now he's leading the league in interceptions. I don't get it. I don't get the Sam Howell hype. I seen someone compare him to a white Jameis Winston. I understand that. Like, I get it. That makes sense. But I just don't think that they should have committed. I think they should have looked at other options. But I mean, you didn't. And at the end of the day, what are the Commanders doing? It doesn't really matter. Like, they're going to revamp that entire franchise. They're going to get a new fucking name. They're ready to just kind of wipe the slate clean. I don't think Rivera's there. I don't think Bieniemy's there. I think that they're going to just have a fresh start.
I think they're just like the epitome of middle of the road right now. Like, if we wanted to do this whole Sam Howell thing, I mean, last year Taylor Heineke won some games for you, and you didn't want to kind of just keep rolling him out there. And then Howell comes in, has one good game, and all of a sudden you want to commit to him for a full season, not even bring in anyone else. I mean, Brian Jacoby looked better than him in this last game. And now I think you got to decide in the offseason, like, are we going to roll with him again? Which I definitely don't think you should. And Bieniemy, like, what is he doing? Like, he can't run the ball, throwing 50 times a game, and they look terrible. I mean, there's weapons on this offense. They have good weapons, and that's why I think Sam Howell has had success in what we've seen.
I'm thinking about Terry McLaurin, that game he didn't get a single catch. He was like, I was doing a lot of cardio out there.
Yeah, he has to be over this season.
I'd be so pissed.
But he did come back this week with 140 yards, touchdown. But yeah, you have weapons all across this field. You should be more explosive than you are. And it's just, too many interceptions, too much bad play, and too many losses.
Too many attempts. Like, fucking switch it up. Bieniemy, what are you doing?
Yeah, Brian Robinson is solid. I mean, Antonio Gibson's solid. I mean, run the ball more. Okay, we're going to move to the next guy. This guy, I don't even know how he's still getting a start. Desmond Ridder.
Ugh, woof. I don't like.
As much as we said, Sam Howell, why are you committing to him? 1,000 times more, we were like, why are you committing to Desmond Ridder?
Desmond Ridder of all people. And it's like, okay, well, at least they brought in Taylor Heineke. Taylor Heineke is going to get some starts, but they just refuse. They flat out refuse to put in Taylor Heineke. And it's like, Arthur Smith, we've seen what this guy can do. It ain't great. Like, figure it the fuck out. Like, everyone else sees it, but you. Why are we doing this? It's bad.
Arthur Smith should be fired like yesterday. Like, you're gonna hinge your career on Bijan Robinson and then never play him. Like, we had to say, like, there needs to be a 30 for 30 on why Bijan Robinson isn't getting all the playtime in the running back position. Like, what is going on with this guy?
The play that perfectly encapsulates it. It's what is it? Who's throwing the ball? It's Jonnu Smith.
Jonnu to the third string tight end.
Yeah, as Kyle Pitts blocks for them.
Highest drafted tight end of all time blocking.
Oh God.
Yeah, I don't know what Arthur Smith is doing. I guess if you could pull a positive out of it, he doesn't care about your draft status.
Bijan Robinson is doing so much off the ball. That's why he's like, hey, we're not going to give him the ball. He's too good of a decoy.
He's Steph Curry. He's just
out there running.
Yeah, out there running. Next guy. Now, I will say he's hurt, but Daniel Jones. He got a big payday. We said they'd regret it. At least I did. And we saw with this offense, with undrafted Tommy DeVito, he looked way better than Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones couldn't get this offense going at all.
QB battle. That's it. They have to have a QB battle. They're going to rig it so that Daniel Jones wins this QB battle in the offseason because his dead cap is $60 million. So you have to rig it. But you have to throw out the idea that, hey, Daniel, we might sit your fucking ass. Of course we're not, because you make too much money to sit on the bench. But we have to give the illusion that we're going to sit your ass. And so I think that's what they do. QB battle. It's going to be rigged. Daniel Jones is going to win. But come next season, not this upcoming offseason, but the offseason after, you could pivot. And that's where I think TD shines.
But it's such a weird spot now because you basically saved Dable's job with Tommy DeVito, and now next year you're going to bring back Dable, and it's going to be this whole quarterback battle
where he hates Daniel Jones.
Yeah, he hates Daniel Jones, likes DeVito, but is DeVito even good enough? And if you start with Daniel Jones, he loses, and then DeVito comes in and he loses. then you just lost your job again. So, I mean, Dable's kind of in a really tough position. This guy, number 1 pick in the draft, Bryce Young, just didn't pass the eye test for me. So small, so tiny when we saw those picks in training camp where he was so little compared to everyone.
I was concerned when he did his first press conference and the podium was so huge compared to him. That's where I was like, oh, I might have fucked up. I'm not going to lie.
What is the Space Jam, the tweet where he's like, my grandma said if I try really, really hard.
I'm not going to lie. I was wrong about this one. He was the best college quarterback coming out. He was. I mean, you can't deny what he did at Bama. I was wrong. CJ Stroud, worlds better. The Texans did an excellent job of leaking out his test info, thinking everyone was thinking he was dumb as a box of rocks. Guess what? The guy who really drilled down on that, David Tepper. They knew David Tepper was going to be like, hey, I really believe in this stuff. We can't draft this guy. So kudos to the Texans. Awesome. I mean,
David Tepper really has to live up to him saying he's patient with this Bryce Young pick. So,
but at the same time, this whole franchise sucks. Look at me and you could have got in for 40 cents. There was literally nobody at the Panthers-Falcons game. He's throwing to a way past his prime Adam Thielen. Who's their running back? Miles Sanders.
Getting nothing.
So it's like, how can you really judge him with a guy at owner who's truly run this franchise into the ground in record time?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he looks bad. They should bench him for Andy Dalton the rest of the season. Hey, let's regroup. Let's figure it out next year.
I'll say this one is kind of asterisk because I don't think it's all on him. Maybe if he gets better pieces around him, he'll look better. Because there has been a flash or here and there.
But also Frank Wright. Frank Wright was not the best choice for this job.
He didn't want him.
But hey, you know what? It is what it is.
All right. Someone, one of your favorite quarterbacks on this list.
Kirk Cousins?
No, Kenny Pickett.
Oh,
I say favorite sarcastically in case you guys didn't catch on to that. The quarterback you hate the most. And I've been on it too, saying that I don't think he's a good quarterback. But there's been pushback on that.
He's not a good quarterback. What the fuck? Joe Flacco has more touchdowns than him now. Joe Flacco's played in 3 games.
Right now, would you rather have Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett on your team?
Joe Flacco. I think Joe Flacco could play behind a solid O-line. If you drop Joe Flacco on that Steelers team, he leads them to the playoffs. Easy. Easy money.
I think it's a bigger problem with the Steelers too. Is they just don't care anymore, and they don't want to. It's gotten old with Tomlin. I haven't had a losing season, and we're just going to barely get by and make a wild card. These wide receivers don't have leadership.
They're fucking insane.
Pickens should be a top 5 receiver right now with his talent, and these guys do not want to block.
They don't want to block. They don't even want to run routes.
On plays that aren't drawn up for them, they're not running routes.
Crazy. Him and Deontay Johnson, I don't know who needs to fucking have a sit down with them. I know that Tomlin has had George Pickens over to his house for Thanksgiving. He's had him over to have discussions.
Well, when he's that good, you have to try to bring him in.
And it's nothing is getting through to him. He keeps constantly putting free me in his Instagram post.
Najee Harris has been checked out for weeks.
Najee Harris sucks.
Najee Harris, I think, is the only competent one, though, that saw it for what it was when they were winning, where he was like, I don't think we would keep this up, basically.
Najee Harris also isn't good.
Jalen Warren's better.
He doesn't have any vision. He's slow. It looks ridiculous. Jalen Warren is so much better. They need to keep pounding the rock to Jalen Warren. I don't know why they just flat out refuse to.
It's one of those, there's been a lot of surprising moves lately with, Devin White, hey, don't even come in anymore. Yeah. Jamal Adams, don't come in anymore. It's I think we're in an era now where people are just hey, listen, we don't want you here. Just stay home.
Yeah, which is actually pretty crazy. You think about it. Hey, you're a healthy scratch. You can go ahead and stay home. Jamal Adams, fuck, they paid this guy a lot of money. They had to give up hell of draft compensation for him. And now
it's hurting the team so much on the defense side of the ball.
Well, yeah, blitz boy, fucking stay your ass on.
All right, we'll stay on the quarterbacks. Yeah. We'll get to these other people later.
Brandon Staley, too. We didn't even talk about that.
Brandon Staley. We could talk about Brandon Staley. Okay, Jimmy Garoppolo. Oof. Raiders fans were hyped when they picked him up. And just like Mike McGlinchey, I will tell you, there was a reason people didn't like these guys on the 49ers. There was a reason 49ers fans were glad you took them. Jimmy Garoppolo, I could have told you from the get-go, which I did. He's not going to be great. He's going to throw picks. He's not going to be good. And, like, look at what happened.
But I don't think we expected him to fall off a cliff like this. It looks insanely bad. He actually looked great last season. I was thinking he was going to be a competent quarterback, but he just is it just Josh McDaniels, like his coaching philosophy? Because I don't know, like he just ran this team into the ground. They were playoff contenders before he got there. So I get it. He's bad. He deserved to be benched. But to have him fall off a cliff that bad, I don't think you can be the biggest Jimmy hater prior to this season. I don't think even they expected it to look this bad.
Baker Mayfield or Jimmy Garoppolo, who are you taking right now?
Baker Mayfield, what the fuck?
Which is a crazy statement, right?
Yeah.
If you would have said that before week 1 this season, you probably would have been like, I mean, Jimmy would at least give me 9 wins.
Yeah.
Be a respectable quarterback. And now it's like hands down Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
All right. This last one, kind of controversial because people are still fighting for this guy. People still believe Justin Fields.
Actually, all right, I've kind of turned around.
You're coming around to Justin. I'm out on Justin Fields.
I'm coming around to him.
I know you guys are going to be like, oh, look at that play. He threw a perfect ball and that guy dropped it, hit him right in the hands. I don't care. There's other plays. I mean, he should have. Joe Flacco threw 3 picks. They're handing the game to the Bears, and you can't win a game against a quarterback who's throwing 3 picks.
I get it. But at the same time, he hasn't complained. The media has really fucking been on his ass. Coaching staff has been a fucking shit show. Guys are getting arrested. Guys are getting fired with an HR has to be involved. It's fucking crazy. He's hung in there and he's done his job. I think he's done everything he could to be a franchise guy. If I'm looking at it, if I'm the Saints, if I'm the Falcons, if I'm even the Jets, if Rodgers decides not to come back, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I can save him. I can do it. I've come around on him because he has a lot of athletic ability. His character is there. I like Justin Fields. I just know this is his last season in Chicago. The Bears, don't get your hopes up.
You can't be the guy that passes on Caleb Williams.
You can't. I mean, we were talking about this off camera a couple days ago. I seen like a TikTok and this guy was like, hey, would you take Caleb Williams and trade Justin Fields for a second and a third? Or would you keep Justin Fields, trade the number 1 pick for 3 firsts? What would you do?
I'd draft Caleb Williams because you get to restart your clock with your guy, someone who has a way higher ceiling than Justin Fields, and you still get a little bit of draft capital from the Justin Fields trade.
But 3 first-round picks?
I mean, we've seen they try to put weapons. I mean, this Bears team needs a lot of pieces.
Yeah, I think, well, one, it has to be a new coach. And I think you get rid of the GM still. Ryan Poles, like, he won the Montez Sweat trade. Get him out of there, dude. Like, why have Chase Claypool there? Why have him there after he's put up a shit effort? Like, you've whiffed on a bunch of draft picks. Just get him the fuck out of there, bro. Like, you can't have the offseason champions. Get the fuck out of here.
But if you trade your first number 1 pick and Caleb Williams is at least a Pro Bowler, like you were getting fired immediately.
Okay. But looking back at these drafts, how many of these quarterbacks live up to the hype? It's maybe a 40% clip at best. And so, I mean, if you were to let's go retroactively, if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, would you trade Trevor Lawrence for 3 first-round picks if you knew this kind of be like top out where Trevor Lawrence is at?
I think they still have hope in Trevor. And I think the question is, though, like, who would they have instead?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anyone later in that draft was popping. I'd have to look back at that draft.
It wasn't that good.
Yeah.
This was the Zach Wilson.
They might have, like, a better receiver and
Justin Fields,
linebacker and Justin Fields, or, like, CJ Beathard right now. Like, they might be screwed if they traded the Trevor Lawrence pick. And that's kind of where you're at. Like, if you trade away that number 1 pick, You're never going to get the opportunity again. I mean, you might because you're really bad. But we know this draft class is a lot better than next year's draft class. And Justin Fields is like you can have a fresh start. He's done. I don't think he sees the field well. I don't think he's a great pocket passer. He's slow with his progression. And I don't need a quarterback who's just going to run the ball and throw interceptions. Like,
I mean, it works for Jalen Hurts.
He doesn't throw that many picks. Well, all right, yeah. Those were kind of our quarterbacks that we were low on. And now
I think here's a guy that I was high on. And I'm like, damn, this is a good fit. And I was completely wrong. Derek Carr.
You're high on him?
I was high coming into the season. I was like,
but you're low on him now.
Yeah,
he's been terrible.
Complete ass. Like, what the fuck? Dude?
Don't let the one good game fool you.
No, like it was so crazy. I was like, damn, he's gonna prove the Raiders wrong. He's gonna do this. He came out to the Pro Bowl weekend and lit it up in that like throwing contest. And it's like, damn, all right, the Saints are gonna really do it here. Nah, he's been ass.
I'll say also we were low on Will Levis, and I think we're feeling pretty good about him.
I was higher on him than you.
I was very low on Will Levis. But that's going to wrap up. We're going to talk more quarterbacks next week, so make sure you guys subscribe me. We're going to talk about teams that need to start a quarterback next year. We're going to talk about who has the best backup quarterback and where they could land next year. And we're going to be talking a lot of quarterbacks to wrap up this season. But the last quarterback I want to talk about, the Jets just got eliminated officially from playoffs. Aaron Rodgers could be cleared to play. Is he coming back?
No, 100% no. I think he even went on McAfee today and was like, well, actually, I'm not completely medically cleared. That won't happen for another 2 to 3 weeks. And so it is what it is. I just think it was the whole ploy this entire time. And you kind of feel bad for the Jets organization just because they were kind of left on this like teeter-totter of should we not?
No,
like,
I don't feel bad for the Jets. Fuck, like you guys are so stupid to see someone tear their Achilles and then be like,
he'll be back in 4 weeks.
But he told us he'll be back, so he'll come back. No, he's not coming back, stupid.
You're not gonna get the chance, stupid.
He tore his Achilles. Trade for a quarterback. What the fuck are you talking about? And that's just dumb on them for like maybe they didn't want to make a move and like make Aaron feel some type of way because he kept on being like, I'm gonna be back.
They should have just went with their gut.
They should have just made a trade and got a quarterback. And then who cares about the quarterback you trade for if Aaron does come back?
Sit him down. Yeah.
Sit him.
Fuck it.
They were on the block for a reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. This makes him look so bad, and he doesn't care. But the fact that he really pushed this narrative, played into it, he's out there throwing in slow motion, and like he was never coming back, and people really believed that he was coming back. And even if he might come back and play.
No, he's not.
But why would he? And even if he did, I'd be terrified behind that offensive line.
That offensive line is so ass. Like, I don't think he was ever coming back. I think that they should have made a move at QB, and obviously we see now that there was moves to be made.
Joe Flacco
could have taken this team to the playoffs. I know it in my soul. He could have taken this team to the fucking playoffs.
They could have won the division, I think. Like, Bills were shaky this year.
Bills are still shaky. Josh Allen has like 20 fucking turnovers this year.
Dolphins have been shaky at times. And this Jets defense was amazing. This was the year for the Jets defense.
Yeah.
But you just didn't have a competent guy at quarterback.
And your O-line sucked. And no matter what, I think, again, hold on. Let me backtrack. I don't think that Joe Flacco would have taken the playoffs. I think he would have looked much better, but Joe Flacco would have been a sitting fucking duck behind this offensive line. And again, I think Saleh and Douglas should be fired. They're not going to be because those are, the guys who got Aaron Rodgers to this team. But you got to be reprimanded for this. You got to. If I'm Woody Johnson, I'm fucking pissed.
Next year, you need to make a Super Bowl run.
And Nathaniel Hackett's not fucking good.
I was just about to say that. Like,
get him out of there.
The fact that you had to keep Hackett because Aaron was Aaron definitely has held this team hostage because I think internally, if you ask them, they would want to be off Hackett already.
They would want to move off Hackett. They didn't want Brett Rippon. And I don't know if you've seen that. I forgot who did this video, but they were breaking down the interaction between Zach Wilson and Diana Rossini, where Zach Wilson was saying like, "Hey, I'm not gonna start for them," and it was coming from Brett Rippon. That's who the leak was. Did you see that video?
No.
Look it up. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
They had to get Brett Rippon.
They had to change their whole receiving room.
Who did they? Lazard, who's a fucking healthy scratch most days. Randall Cobb, who never plays,
should not be in the league.
So yeah, he picked his shots, called it,
and you believed him that he was going to come back. You idiot,
fucking loser.
All right, well that's all we got for this one. We're gonna do the disco.
Do you have a disco?
I have a disco.
I got one.
So the deep dip disco, short for discovery, is where we talk about something we discovered this week. It could be a movie, it could be TV, anything that's not sports, really.
Yes. And obviously we're sports guys through and through. We live for this shit. But also, I am now a married man. I have to watch other shit. So my disco this week, I know this is going to be a disco that everyone's seen, and I know where you've stopped. And so I'm going to ask you, go back to it. My disco is The Walking Dead.
Oof. You knew that's one of my favorite shows ever.
I'm asking you to go back to it. I know exactly where you stopped.
Glenn.
No spoilers, but after you get past that point, there's like 3 or 4 episodes where it's like, wah, he died. And that's the whole episode. Once you get past those episodes, it really starts to pick up. You start to see the storyline with Negan really progress, the saviors, like the interworkings of it. Everything that happens with Carl, Rick, and the dynamic of that group, Alexandria, what's happening. It's so awesome. So I highly suggest picking up The Walking Dead after that point. I think it's so awesome.
I'll say too, even if you're not even a fan of that season, keep moving forward through it, because there's a season with this group known as the Whisperers,
yes,
who wear like zombie masks and move amongst the dead. And that season is one of the best seasons in the show. And then you get into the spinoffs. The spinoffs are really good. They've just focused on individual characters, and they're way higher quality than the last seasons of the show. So I'm about to watch the Daryl show for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to get into it.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, once you get past, like, you got to push yourself past that point. I know that turned off a lot of viewers. Like, I think it dropped like 70% after that point, but skip like 3 episodes, then go back to it. It's the writing is awesome. The characters development is awesome. You're going to love it. You're going to be like, damn, why didn't I watch this sooner?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my disco.
I love that show. Love that pick. All right. Mine. So there's a Netflix show. If you were a fan of like the Alice in Borderland kind of vibe, those shows, Sweet Home is one of my favorites. I think it's honestly I liked it better than like a Squid Game and like Alice in Borderland. This was my favorite kind of Netflix show. And it is like a monster show. It's really well written. Really, like, it's very like anime inspired. Like, you very feel those vibes. And they just dropped season 2 on Netflix. So I don't want to give away too much of the story, but if you like monsters, you like fucking cool anime stuff, this is live action, and I think it's done really well. Watch Sweet Home. Watch Alice in Borderland too, but I think Sweet Home is my pick.
Yeah, and both can be found on Netflix. Stream it right now, and be sure to hit that like.
Netflix.
Be sure to hit that like button. Drop some comments. Let us know what you're watching, and then also hit subscribe. Come on. Later.